Traxster.
Do you wanna ride in the backseat of a caddy? Chop it up or do or die? Do you wanna ride?
Pimp came about because I was working with Do or Die. They was managed at the time by one of my business partners. Soon after I started working with them, and it was just an organic record that, you know, came together because we were all in the same building. My first thought when I think about that record is collaboration, because it was Twista, it was Johnny P, it was Do or Die, I was producing. So it is the ultimate example for me of how a collaboration a lot of times becomes a very important record. One person couldn't have made that record. It took everybody. Personally, that song has a very special place in my heart because it was really the record that I broke into the industry with. It's a record that helped define the Chicago sound, and I think it's one of the greatest records, greatest hip hop records to ever come from Chicago. After we did Do or Die, Twista ended up signing with the label I co-owned, Creators Way, and Do or Die ended up signing with Rap-A-Lot Records. So when we went in to start working on Adrenaline Rush for Twista, you know, we had a lot of motivation to top what I had done for Do or Die, and that fire fueled that great record. I mean, I want to say that Adrenaline Rush is one of my masterpiece work of arts. I know you're only supposed to have one masterpiece, is why it's called the masterpiece, but it's arguably my masterpiece. That's the first thing that comes to mind. I had something to prove, Twista had something to prove, my label had something to prove. So when I think of Adrenaline Rush, I think of hunger and passion and ambition.
I do it. I do it. I do it. Yeah, I like that. Boy.
I Do It is significant to me because it was the second collaboration between me and No ID for an artist. But it was a very organic record that just happened naturally. Basically, I was in the studio with No ID, and he had some old school keyboards. It was a bit of a challenge. Bet you can't really make a dope sound out of that keyboard. I played a bunch of stuff. One of the lines was dope, and then we built I Do It, what became I Do It around that line. And he already wanted to do a song for Sean called I Do It, which was Sean's catchphrase. So that ended up being the record, and it, you know, ended up being an important record to Sean. I would say my first thought when I think about I Do It is new. Like, it was a new sound, a new artist, you know, a new way of making beats for me and No ID. So that's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that record.
Chick bad, my chick hood, my chick do stuff that your chick wish she could. My chick bad.
My Chick Bad is arguably my biggest record in my career. It actually means a lot because I'm in my 15th year as a producer, and to have my biggest record 15 years in, even though I had classic records with Twista and Do or Die and other artists, it was it meant a lot because it was like, man, I'm just getting started. Ludacris was working on Battle of the Sexes. With Shauna, he wanted to reach out to some Chicago producers because he was a fan of some of my earlier work with a group called Psychodrama and Twista and Do or Die, some of the other Chicago acts. He sent somebody to find me, and at the time I had a place in Atlanta, and we were supposed to hook up, and finally he was shooting a movie, so finally he made it to Atlanta. I ended up staying because I was moving back to Chicago, and I ended up staying 3 extra months to have this meeting with him. So on the last day that I was in in Atlanta, he called me. We went to the studio. I played beats, and then the last beat I played, after I played a bunch he liked, and then a few he didn't like. Then I was like, man, what else can I play? And I ended up playing, going through different folders. It was like, okay, let me play this. It was the last beat I played, and he picked it. So it's a real weird story how that record came about, and then it ends up being my biggest record. So it's like destiny. The person who wrote the hook on it name is Lil Play, and he had actually just gave me the hook. He said it in a booth. Then one day I was in Chicago, sitting at the kitchen table, waiting for my girl at the time to go to the grocery store and come back and cook dinner. I was just sitting at the kitchen table, pulled out my laptop and made the beat. So, the first thing that comes to mind when I think about My Chick Bad is just anything can happen. Anything is possible. You never know what's gonna happen when you create something. Man, that song means a lot because Mariah had actually reached out to me to redo a beat I had already done for her to write a song to. And I just sent some beats over. But the real crazy part of it was, man, Mariah Carey was, as many records as she sold, was reaching out to me as a fan of music I made. So that was like, wow. I mean, at the time, my studio was in the hood. I was in the hood, even though I had successes, you know what I'm saying? At that particular time, I was rebuilding my career, and for somebody of her caliber to reach out and say, she was a fan of anything that I did, I was just like, wow, this little pocket town guy did good. I had just made my first beat CD. I wasn't ever really into making beat CDs for people, so that was my first one because the industry had changed. I was used to going in the studio with artists, but at that particular time, everybody was on, send me some beats, so that was my first beat CD. Through a production manager I had at the time. It got to a radio person who got to her manager, that got to her. The real, and then she wrote to it, and then it was over. So it was really just a matter of, divine timing for that particular record. I can't say that I strategized this brilliant thing. It was just, that's how it happens sometimes. That particular song earned me a Grammy nomination because the album was nominated for Album of the Year. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think about that song is, I remember sitting in a studio watching the Grammys the year before and making a statement like, man, next year I'm gonna be there. And then all those events happened. And when that album got nominated, I didn't even realize that, but the long and short of the story is I was in the seats as a nominee that next year after I had spoke that into existence. So whenever I think about that record, I just think about how much a year can change your life and how much a record can change your life. And now they have to call me Grammy nominated because of a beat that I made one day in the studio for a whole nother artist. And it's just a chain of events that led to that.
You and me, yeah. Show that we gon' make a movie.
That song is special to me because I had just done another single for Twista on his last album. So it was kind of like showing people, you know, me and him do this at will. You know, we make hit records. We really haven't done an album that I didn't make a hit record for. So that was just like the stamp that what we do isn't a fluke. We came off tour for his previous album, which was Category F5. I went in the studio and I was just working on beats for the next project. I had the idea for that concept. Me and another writer wrote it, and eventually we sent it to T-Pain to sing. He rewrote it around the same concept, and then he was having issues with his label at the time, so we sent it to Chris Brown, and when we got it back, we knew that's it. That vibe on that record is one of my natural vibes. I don't have to stretch for that, and it's crazy because when females hear that type of beat, they just automatically know how to dance to it. So whenever I think about that song, I think I have a mental image of some really thick, fine girl on YouTube grinding to the record.
This is 8 balls, ounces, dimes, halves, and bricks. This is pimping, getting paid off the bitches' ass and tits.
Return of Gangster Music was my last project album as a rapper. I've had 2. All Hell Breaks Loose and A Return of Gangster Music. When I did All Hell Breaks Loose, it was a darker time in my life. So Return of Gangster Music was me making music that wasn't so personal, but yet was me. It was just, you know, I worked on it for a couple of years, a few years actually. I started out at MC, and that never really dies when you are an MC. So at the time, you know, I make so many beats, and it's not, I don't always have enough artists to give them to. So, you know, that particular time I saved some of my best beats for myself and put the project together. But it's just really a passion that I do for the love of MCing. Man, I just think about critiquing it in retrospect, what I would have done different. That's really the first thing that comes to mind, because it's a difference when I'm a producer. I'm looking at things far more objectively than when I'm being an artist. And the only time I get to look at it objectively is in retrospect. So when I think of Return of Gangster Music, I just be, you know, critiquing it in my head, like I would have changed that. This could have been better. Oh, I jabbed right there, but you know, so that's just that.
You gotta know it by now. Got all these rappers holding my style. They hot for illa, just like these young hoes.
That project was, I think, a great project, a concept album, and I think it was something that I needed to do to become a better CEO of a record company. Basically, I had hired EC to work in administration at Traxster Inc. He said that he had retired from the mic and he couldn't leave it alone. Wrote to a beat one day and started that whole cycle that ended up being a project called White Folks. I kind of have mixed feelings about it because one part of me loves the creativity. The other part of me feels like it wasn't as authentic as I wanted it to be. So I'm far more into finding what's special about an artist and magnifying that, and not necessarily creating an alter ego, which I feel White Folks was. Tia London is the reason that I started my record label up again. That project is very special to me because I feel like it's audio art. It was really me just being artistic musically, more than I was competing artistically opposed to trying to destroy every producer in the game, you know what I'm saying? Tia is a songwriter signed to Traxster Inc. And in order for me to keep her songwriting, she twisted my arm and said she wanted to work on her project as an artist. So I gave her that opportunity, and then it turned into something special. So that's how it came about. Man, that I want the whole world to hear it. And that just when you think you can quantify who I am as a producer, I give you a love junkie, and you say, I don't know, this man is, I don't know what he can do anything. He's the best producer ever in life. That's what comes to mind.
It's a cold world, and motherfuckers heartless, so garbage, regardless of what y'all done been through. They'll stab you in the back with the ginsu.
On my prior album, it's called All Hell Breaks Loose. There's a record called Cold World. And I feel like as a rapper, it's one of my greatest achievements because it was really about my life, what I was going through at the time. And when I was working on All Hell, I think I had the focus that every rapper should always have. Like, I literally cut the phone off, told the chicks I couldn't hang out, locked myself in the house with a pen and a pad, and wrote until the song was done and wouldn't leave out the house. And that isolation and that focus, I think, was some of my best lyrics. The consistency of thought, completion of the thoughts was all the way through the whole song, and not just between a couple of bars or between a verse, but those songs have complete thoughts from the beginning of the song to the end. But it came about, the album came about from, I had just become a famous rap producer, a significant rap producer, and my life changed. And I went from being the guy everybody loved to the guy niggas was hating on. And I had to figure that out. So there's a lot of aggression on the record. There's a lot of therapy. And, really the project just came about as a response to what was going on in my life. I mean, the first thing I think is, damn, I was really angry at that time. Like, I was really in a space that was dangerous for a young man. But it was a lot of truth and honesty in that emotional state. So first thing I think about is, man, I was really enraged. I guess that's rage would be the single word description. Everybody go to www.traxsterinc.com, get the new music.